G'day, legends, and welcome to the off-season Chinwag. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me, he's back. Johnny's back again. Tell your friends. How are you, Johnny?
I'm good. I'm very good. I thoroughly enjoyed my trip back home to see family and friends. So, yeah, it was a good 2 months that I was away. Very, very mental stag do / bucks party in Albufeira. Won't be going back there anytime soon. Probably banned. And then, yeah, wedding at the end was fantastic. Brother's wedding. Very, very good of 15 hours drinking. So, yeah, glad
I
to be
think
back.
I think Henrik McLaughlin's onto something here. Does a hangover count as technical difficulties?
Ah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm still nursing my hangover, that's for sure.
Yeah, but for a couple of months there. There you go. I could
That's
have
it.
kept going with that old Eminem, intro for you there, Johnny. I could have kept going for probably another 30 seconds, but I thought, nah.
No. Yeah, I don't know enough about Eminem.
It'd get it. He'd go far enough, and then it would just become a lot lamer than it was. So, you
Yeah,
I don't have Liam to put some silly joke in there over the top of me and then, dig us out of that hole. So happy
no,
days.
that's it. We need to wait for him to come back.
Yep. So on tonight's pod, we'll be talking about transfer rumors, goalkeeper situation, and then we'll just basically carry on. So it could be 20 minutes, could be half hour, it could be an hour. Who the hell knows? Any questions that you have, put in the comments, and I'll try to flag them and we'll get to them later on. I have a couple from last week's off-season Chinwag that we didn't get to that I found after the fact, so I've got a few questions there to go through. So, yeah, we'll just try and make it as interactive as possible, answer your comments, bring them up on the screen and the likes. So it's been ages since you've been on, Johnny. So, yeah, well, I don't know where to start, really, other than we'll just start off with the Matt O'Reilly talk, I suppose.
Absolutely. Dive in.
So
Yeah, looks like he's off.
that's the talk. But basically, what's happened is Celtics rejected a transfer offer from Atalanta for about 16, 17 million pound. Southampton are wanting him for about 20. Leicester's come in for him at about 20 or something like that. Roma and Juventus have both reached out to the club over the weekend to find out what fee we're after for him. You've got Atletico Madrid still keen. They've lost Saul, or however you say it. So they're looking for a midfielder. They came in at about 17 million last window. So realistically for me, I've said it numerous times on the pod, I want to see us push out and try and get a club record for him. I think anything under 30 million should be rejected. We've got him under a long-term contract. Worst case scenario, if we don't get the right move and the right figure, play him, keep him for the Champions League, and then he can put himself in the shop window. What are your thoughts, John?
I very much agree. My cousin's visiting from Scotland at the moment. He's in Brisbane, or he's just left Brisbane actually, and we had a really long chat about this. I think the Atlanta offer is just them testing the waters. I think it's quite disrespectful, but that's only because I've got green tinted glasses. I think what they've done is they've identified talent that a lot of other teams also seem to be keen on and gone, oh, well, let's see if we can just offer them something. There seems to be the same sort of reputation. Oh, well, it's a Scottish team. They'll take what they can get. Just not true with Celtic anymore. We're financially way stronger than we have been for a long time. So we don't have to accept silly lowball offers. 15 million is generally around about the bracket of a player that maybe has 1 to 18 months left on their contract. That's the sort of really good. I can't quite remember what Christie went for or Aya or those types, but I think they were quite low on their contract, and around about the 11 to 12 is kind of what they go. So I think 15 is just, in my opinion, disrespectful. I am inclined to agree with you. I think we should push the boat out to 30 mil. Whether we actually get that or not is up for debate. I think if we got over the 25, so somewhere in that bracket, maybe 25 to 30 is probably realistic. But the conversation that we had, me and my cousin, was if it was a team like Birmingham or Portsmouth or Bristol City or somewhere like that, and a Premiership team or a Sierra team went in to get one of their talented midfielders, where they've, if it was comparable, a Champions League man of the match, 30 million would be the minimum. That 30 million would be the minimum that those teams would be asking for. So we are a much bigger team than the ones that I've described. We are playing on a much bigger stage in the European stage, arguably also domestically. We need to be asking for 30 million, and then hopefully there's a bidding war. So Matt O'Reilly is our biggest talent at the moment. We need to be pushing out the boat. I think 30 million is a reasonable asking price.
I just figured something out, John. Well, after throwing over to you, so I was listening to you. I've got to search this. Atalanta's head of senior recruitment. Who do you think that is?
Oh God, I don't know.
Give you the answer.
No, go on then.
It's Lee Congerton.
Right, there you go. That says everything, doesn't it?
I'm in cheap thinking, what their board's like. I'm going to try and figure it out. So there it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Figured it out what it was.
What was Lee Congerton's best signing?
Leaving?
Yeah, me too. No idea. That's the answer. Who knows? Who knows who his best signing was? Terrible head of scout.
Yep. So Strange Love the Doctor was saying, I'm not concerned about any of the clubs interested in Matt other than Juventus. Hopefully they're just messing with Atalanta's recruitment plans. That's what it looks like to me. I hope that's what it is. But apparently an Atalanta player has been linked with Juventus at they're wanting 40 million for him or something like that. So they're probably thinking, well, if they're going to sell us that player and they're going to bring O'Reilly in to replace him, let's just buy their replacement and get him and just muck around with him, basically. So, yeah.
I mean that'd suck if that was the case for Matt, but I guess for Celtic and it's very, very well supplied bank account, it would suit us very well if we had a situation like that. But yeah, would be a shame for Matt because I do think Juventus might be a step up. Personally, I think his expectation of breaking in to the first 11 probably wouldn't be the case. But maybe breaking through or rotational player at a team like Juventus would be good wage and all that.
I think what they would do is they'd sign him, they'd put him out on a loan to another Serie A team for a year, get him a run of games, and then look to bring him in the following year. That's just what I think they would do. But it is good at the end of the day that we have big European, continental clubs that have great history, won many European Cups, and looking at us. So bypassing the English leagues now and going, a lot of these teams in England are buying players from, Celtic has a good player, that well-tread path from Celtic to Southampton, and then from Southampton to Tottenham or to Liverpool or wherever. They're skipping that stage now and going, we know what Celtic's like. Let's go and get the player from there. You've got Atletico Madrid. You've got Juventus looking. So it's good to see, the teams in the continent are probably thinking, we can't compete with the money, the stupid money in the EPL ourselves now. So let's have a look, just above there and try and get, value for money.
I agree. And I think the writing was on the wall with that sort of stuff. I also really, really want us to capitalize on the situation. So what I don't want, I can foresee a scenario which, really understandably, Matt O'Reilly might hear these rumors, probably actually get directly contacted by some of these massive teams, and your head gets turned a little bit, which means it wouldn't surprise me if next season performance wavered slightly. We've seen that with other players. Edouard is a great example. So I think we need to capitalize. I think when our players are at their peak, that's when we sell, because that's when we get the most value for money. And as long as we've actually also got that replacement process in line, which we can talk about in a minute, but we probably don't. So I would like to see us capitalize in it. If we hold out for 30 million and it's nothing under 30, which I think is silly, it wouldn't surprise me if Matt's performances suffer slightly. Maybe not for the entire season, but it just wouldn't surprise me at all.
I actually think, having seen the way he's forward planned his career, that if he had to stay here an extra 6 months, I don't think it would be as much of an issue for him as it was when we rejected moves for Christie, Aya, and Edward in the 10-row season. I don't think it's going to be as much of an issue as that was for them. So, like his plan, he actually spoke about it. He was at Fulham. He took a step back to MK Dons. Now he comes to Celtic. So him and his family would have been forward planning his next move. So we want to go to this sort of level, or do we want to go to that level? And they all seem like they were pretty switched on heads there. So I just look at it and go, it could be interesting to see how that all plays out. But yeah, I think it always messes a player's head up, as you're saying there, Johnny. So if a big offer comes in from a big club, like O'Reilly last year was on fire, except for about 3 or 4 weeks after the Atletico stuff happened. So that's human nature.
I think so. Yeah.
So I've got no problem with it. If teams are going to unsettle him, I'd rather them unsettle him now, like while we're just in preseason training, than later on. But yeah, we need to keep him basically at the end of the day. If we don't get the money we want, then too bad. Stay. You got a contract. That's the way I look at it.
Yep, I agree. And I don't necessarily think his performance would suffer for the entire season either. I think it would be potentially for a couple of weeks, but I think players are professional enough, that they play when they, especially when we start playing in Europe, they want to put their name back out there and stuff. So it just wouldn't surprise me if his performance dropped slightly because of all the rumors. So we should capitalize, in my opinion.
Let's just wait for the end of the window and some crazy team hasn't got their first or second option that they wanted, and they just come in and go, someone we reject now will be like, okay, fine, we'll give you the money you want. And I hope that if that happens, okay, I can see the club biting the hand off. But if they're going to do that, I hope they've got a list of players ready to go. So that let's put an offer in for this player, and this player, and let's get at it. Get the replacement in. No mucking around. I don't want all that cash landing in the account and no player coming in. I don't want to have to play Palmer in the number 10.
I honestly, from well, we will talk about this, but from recent evidence, I just don't ever believe that's the case with Celtic. I do not believe that there is a plan B, C, D ready to go when something doesn't work out. I think we sit around and we wait for opportunities to come to us. That seems to be a lot of the rumors that have happened over the years. Agents approaching Celtic, being this person's better, this person's better, or we wait for managers to come in. Oh, here's the people I've worked with. Here's the talent that I've identified previously, and that's when we get. I don't think there's a strategy. I don't think there's a plan to anything. So, if we sell Matt O'Reilly, Bernardo will be the replacement. We can just guarantee that. So we should all just be comfortable with that's the fact.
We said that a few weeks ago on the pod, and the comments did not like that at all.
Nobody likes it. nobody likes. It's like tastes like vinegar.
It's shocking, but yeah,
it's still a fact. Yeah.
Jerry Burns saying Matt O'Reilly's going to become a bit unsettled, saying these big teams linked with him. As we said, it's human nature there. So we'll got a few comments here. We'll see what we can bring up. If there's nothing referring to Matt O'Reilly, so we'll leave them and we'll push on to the next one. So another one, as I said, I actually reckon, and I said a couple of weeks ago on the pod, that I think Rio Hatate would move before Matt O'Reilly. And Celtic have rejected an offer from an unnamed Russian side for Hatate over the weekend, allegedly. So for me, I reckon if Hatate gets an offer for a club in Italy or a club in Spain or England or whatever, he's off. As soon as the offer comes in, he'll be like banging on Brendan's door saying, let me out, let me out. So I actually think Bernardo is the replacement for Rio, not for O'Reilly. Who's more that sort of player.
Yeah, look, I guess Hatate O'Reilly's presence is fairly similar. I think probably Hatate's been overshadowed a bit by O'Reilly's performances of recent, at least. So maybe the expectation of a decent sized, well-known team probably isn't going to happen for him. I don't see Southampton or Crystal Palace or whoever coming in and giving us a sensible offer, and then that's him away. Um, I just if we get offered 15 million, why would we bother when we've got a player there? There's a player that can immediately, like, even if he's banging on the door, like, I just don't see how that makes any sense to lose O'Reilly and then to lose Hatate potentially. Would just hamper us so much. That's the completely our engine in the middle. So I just don't really see that happening. It would have to be a silly offer, or it would have to be a fairly big team, which I also don't really see for him to, I guess, have justification for saying to Rodgers, right, let me go. It's Christ, Tottenham or somebody like that. Do you know what I mean? Or even a Watford's too big, but too small. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like a big, well supported, but maybe not top 6 team. So
Club like is the one I think he'd land at something like that.
yeah, look, fair, or Aston Villa or someone like that. That's Aston Villa might be a better shout, but I just don't see a big enough offer coming in to tempt Celtic or a big enough team to justify Hatate wanting to move on. Most players, when they feel that they have achieved what they want to achieve, want to move on. But that doesn't mean that the team that employs them has to do that. So, it has to be mutual unless a contract expires. So, if we're going to go back to what Andrew's like, was if a player wants to go, we'll just sell them immediately. Well, fantastic, but we better have that conveyor belt immediately in. Who's the replacement for these people, like for like? We just don't do that. It takes us a season or two to do that, to replace
John, you just set me up perfect. It's the perfect assist there, because they're talking about the conveyor belt. The next thing I wanted to mention was Daniel Kelly being banished from first team preseason training after refusing to sign a new deal. So I'm looking at it going, realistically, is Pegleg saying Atade was honking last season, he'll go nowhere. Michael Ross is saying that Riley McGree's been rumored as an option. Paddy Lavery is saying just blame it all on Jerry Taylor. Awesome, love your stuff, Paddy. I'll tell Jerry that. But RL77 was Atade was very ordinary last season, injury related, so I can't see too many big offers. So maybe a good showing after the Champions League. Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. The production line, the flow-on that we're always talking about is next man up. So realistically, if Atade wanted to go, do well in Champions League, prove yourself, and then go. By that point, we should have Home up to speed or Kelly up to speed. One of those guys as the young backups challenging to take their spot. Ideally, that's how it should work. But this is Celtic Football Club. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, because
pants.
I think in general, I'm quite sick of us treading water when it comes to gaining momentum. We've spoken about this, and I don't want to go on about it. And it really is this next season to change my opinion, I guess. But we had such a foundation with Ange and his team that we really wanted to see growth and development from that. And we kind of have it. I think there's still a couple of players that we want to come in and then just be first team ready, go hit the ground running. There's not this like, oh Christ, we managed to get somebody that can just play and not have to. I'm not saying they don't need to bed into the team, and that might take a couple of games, but waiting 6 months, waiting a year, we don't really we don't want that anymore. So is Home right now ready? No. So he's not the answer, and he shouldn't be in our future plans. He should just be maybe gone, but he should be a squad player until otherwise proven. So we need to buy somebody who is ready to go, that Home was supposed to be. And if Hatate goes, we need an immediate replacement. If O'Reilly goes, we need an immediate replacement. And just to go on from there, instead of one step forward, 2 steps back all the time, every season. It's just Champions League and then into Europe after Christmas. It should be a given. It should always happen, and we should be gaining momentum, and we just never seem to do it. So I don't know. I don't think Home's the answer. I kind of don't feel like Bernardo's the answer either, to be perfectly honest. But I guess we're going down that route, supposedly.
So on that, Johnny, Brendan Rodgers giving a reality check to Burson Lowell and Odin Home. So the quote was, "I think the two boys have talent, but I want more, a lot more. Talent's not just enough. You can play in teams, but not in our team." So in other words, he's saying you've got to do more. And so between that and then seeing what he's done with Daniel Kelly being banished because he hasn't signed a contract, why would we want to run the risk? Yes, Kelly's a good upcoming player that's linked with a club like Bayer Leverkusen. So if Kelly was to sign his new deal and then play for us and do the preseason and become one of our good players for the first half, great. But I can understand Brendan not doing it because if he plays, establishes himself, and then he goes for free in January, then you're back to square one and you've given him experience and you haven't been playing other players who should have been in that spot. So I think it's a good move by Brendan doing that.
I agree.
So, yeah, all things considered, I'm liking what I'm seeing. And I'm also liking the ruthlessness of him where he's sold O to Genk in Belgium for £4.5 million, which is pretty much double what we paid for him. There's no
Yep.
mucking around. That money goes straight into the IDA fund.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Suppose hopefully. I think O is another type of character that I was talking about with family and stuff where just wasn't what we needed, wasn't good enough. We all identified that. We I think most of us saw a player there, like hit flashes of potential, flashes of the goal scorer that we need him to be. Nowhere even close to consistent. Not good enough for Celtic, and it just needs to be that ruthless. Don't make it, move on. Don't make it, you're in the reserves. It just has to go like that. And the fact that we've doubled our money is great. I'd even take a loss. I would even be okay with us spending 5-6 million on a player. It doesn't work out in a season they're gone for a discount price. It just has to be like that. We have to build that into our business model so that when we do sell players for 30 million, that we recover those losses that way. We're going to have far more losses than we are going to have wins. That's just the way that's going to have to go. So we have to be able to mitigate the two. So good for Celtic. Hopefully it works out at Genk. And he's either what we want as well. It's kind of like we'll see with him. I guess he's another one. He's had an opportunity to show that he's worth having a punt on, but he hasn't got very long to show us whether he's the Giakoumakis type. That's who we want, right? We want someone who is going to score us goals in coming on in 60 minutes and win big games. We all know he's done that. Ida did that last season, but he now needs to do that consistently. Is Ida as good as Giakoumakis was for us? No. That's the level he needs to get at. Kyogo's dropped the ball last season. It's his jersey to lose at the moment, but Ida needs to be the Giakoumakis type.
So for me, rattling off for the two of them there, I think a few guys in the comments are saying O didn't get enough runs of games. I think Strange Love the Doctor saying, I think O will develop into a great player. I feel in his 3 or 4 years maturing in European. I think he's going to be turn into a potential. What's his name again? I was thinking about him before. You know, I think it was the Finnish guy, the Icelandic guy we had as striker who went down to Norwich and did really well there.
Oh, Pookie.
Yeah, Timu Pukki. I think he'll be that sort. So for us, the club was too big for him. He seemed like he was too busy trying to like wrestle players and actually play football. So him moving off to Genk, he'll develop well in Belgium. And I think he'll develop into like a Timu Pukki sort of one. So it's not for us. On Adamita, if it's £5 million, which is what the apparent talk is, I'm happy with that. £5 million for a player now is the equivalent of the £2 million player 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So we're still shopping in that bargain bin that Peter Lowell loves so much. But £5 million for him for Ida, I'd be happy with. Get him up there today to get his medical done. So I'm happy with that. And I don't see him as the Giakoumakis type where you were mentioning, John. I've said in the past that I see Adamita as like Moussa Dembele from Wish. He's big. He's got the heading ability. He can go left. He can go right. He just doesn't have that swagger or that fear factor. That if you looked at Dembele in flight, you'd be like, oh shit, here we go. Ida, it's like he comes up with the goals, he gets in the right position, he gives us something a lot different to what Kyogo gives us. So I like him. So I'd be happy with that.
I no, I agree. I think we currently need that type. He's a young lad, and we need the understudy to the first team striker. Um, whether that is Kyogo or not, that's for him to fight for the position. What I'm concerned is, do you remember the lad that we had, Klamala? Is it
Yeah,
Klamala?
Patrick
Yeah,
Clement.
Patrick Klamala. I'm worried about he turns into somebody like that. Now, when you watch Klamala, I seem to remember thinking, oh, no idea who he was. Don't even know the team he's come from. But Jesus, there's something there. He had an ability to him, but he was so raw that he didn't last at Celtic. I can't remember how long he was at Celtic for, a year, 18 months, and he just moved on. But there was such a rawness to him. I kind of put him in the same category as that. Maybe not to the same extent, but I don't think what I'm talking about, which is to get that momentum going at the European stage, that he is that level. I don't think Adam Ida is a Champions League player, is what I'm probably saying. And what we need is a Champions League squad ready to go. We're not talking about winning this thing, right? We're talking about competing this thing, getting through the knockout stages, actually gaining some momentum, and having a Champions League squad means that we need that next caliber of player. And I personally haven't seen enough in him to say yes, he's that level. I still think it's a good signing. It's a signing that we currently need, but it's that level that I'm kind of getting at.
Well, the talk from Rogers was that he tried to get Rocco Vada to sign a new deal to be our third string striker this year. So it was going to be Kyogo, it was going to be Ida, and then it was going to be Rocco Vada as the third stringer. So that was the talk there. So for me, Michael Ross is saying Ida's a menace. David Boyle is saying Ida is way better than the Polish dud. So yeah, for me, I don't think I liked Klamala in a certain situation. I thought he would have been perfect in an Ange system, but we had him when Lenny was the manager. And that was the issue. If you had Klamala with his engine doing the pressing, I think he could have worked for us.
Quite probably, yeah. I absolutely agree, and I agree with the comments. I do think that Ida is far, far, far better than Klamala was. But it's I stand by my comments. I still kind of put them in the same category as the dead raw striker that we've had. That isn't quite that next level of what we should all be expecting as a Celtic fan.
I would say Ida, when he came in the second half of the season, his loan there reminded me more of the John Guidetti type coming up from Man City than
Phew.
Patrick Muller. That's going back into the basket there. But a guy
Yeah,
come in, make an impact, whether he's a starter or off the bench, and gave you a good outball. That's where I see it. So yeah, it's going to
yeah.
realistically for us, it's about winning the league next season and getting in that top 24 in the Champions League. That's how I classify next season as a success. I don't really see it as it's not about winning the cups or doing a domestic treble. So
It's a hard one because we always kind of expect those things now, which is quite arrogant of us. But the proof is that we do it. So, I think domestically we've got it kind of figured out, and it's that next big push that we're kind of trying to still work out. I think the kind of like the talent level that I'm thinking of, I guess would be like the El Yanusi types for Europe. And in that look, I think it was 16 million they were asking, something like that, which is we've not even come close to spending that type of money on a single player. But I think that would be because we can't say that El Yunusi was ripping it up in Champions League. We can't say that he is like a European masterclass player, but that's the sort of caliber that I think we should be pushing for, so that we can, keep going. And I'm personally yet to be convinced that what the players that we've discussed have it. and O certainly didn't. I don't. I think O was given enough time. I think Holmes been given enough time. I think Rocco Vat has been given enough time. So yeah, I'm kind of okay with these players not quite making it or moving on.
Fair enough. I'm just trying to search something because where you're saying 16 million, which is what Alanusi went for, I think the Scottish record spent for an inbound player, if my memory's right, it's from
Edouard,
no, Edward, we paid 9 million. That was our record. The overall Scottish record,
was it
I think it
Flo?
was 15 million for Torandre Flo
Yeah,
when the Deadco bought him from Chelsea.
yeah, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. But that's what happens when you cheat and you lie. You can spend whatever you want.
And your club dies. There we
Yeah.
go. So, Paulo Bernardo, he's left Benfica's preseason camp. We've already touched on it. Fees apparently £3.5 million plus add-ons. I said on the pod a while back when the talk was it was 6-7 million. I said 3.5, 4 million. I'd be happy to pay. Anything more than that, it's a no for me. So I'm happy for him to come back at that level, at that price. He wants to be at the club. Cool. By
Yep.
signing and signing Bernardo, you bring them in. As I said last week on the pod with Shane, all that does is gets us back to where we were at the end of last season without
Exactly.
without a goalkeeper.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
we're still weaker. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk more about the goalkeeper situation off the back of this, and then we'll roll into a few other things. So the elephant in the room, Kasper Schmeichel is going to have a medical this week. Apparently it's happening in Italy either today or tomorrow, and then he'll fly out to America for our trip over there. So he'll be our new number one. His deal is for 1 year with another year option. So for me, looking at that, I'm going to put the two goalkeeper thing together while we talk about it. I like that because it gives us that veteran goalkeeper because a lot of the other guys were like Clark, Oluwayemi at the club. They're pretty young, along with the other guy that we're going to talk about in a minute. So it's good to have a veteran goalkeeper coming in, someone who's captained his nation and has played all 4 games at the Euros for Denmark. So bringing Kasper in will fill that leadership void, and that Joe Hart leaving has basically we've lost at the club. So I'm happy with that. I think I'm actually going to get a free hit at going on the Celtic Superstore now and buying a Celtic shirt from my wife, probably the first time ever, because she's loved Kasper Schmeichel ever since the Leicester City days under Ranieri. So as soon as I told her, she was like, "Oh, I'm getting the top." So I think that there might be a free hit for me there. So that's a little small victory as well.
That's good. Yeah. Look. I'll be extremely honest. I was disheartened originally with the rumors, at least, that Schmeichel was coming. Mostly because I just think a 37-year-old keeper, where it's maybe a 2-year deal, is so short-term thinking. It is just because Brendan Rodgers knows him and has worked with him that we were even had the opportunity to approach him. I really desperately wanted to see a young keeper coming in that could make it at Celtic, was ready to make a name for himself, and attempting, it didn't work out, but attempting the Barkas situation again. I just wanted to see us with some vision and some forward thinking, and I thought, Christ, really, yeah, he's a very talented 37-year-old keeper. He's done it at the national level. He's done it in the Premier League. What I just really wanted was a younger keeper on a longer term deal, and then all of a sudden, we were rumored to have one. There's 2 were coming in, and I thought, oh, I'm so sorry, Celtic. You do have a vision. I take it all back. Yeah, and now I'm actually quite happy. Maybe the short term with Schmeichel and then the younger lad coming in after maybe retirement or moving on. That sounds pretty all right.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm happy with as well, John, because to go get Schmeichel for the experience, but then have the young guys we touched on earlier, and then also to be bringing in Finland international Viliami Sinisalo for approximately 1.5 to 2 million, depending on what you read. He's going to serve as our number 2, backing up Schmeichel for a year or two, learning from him. And then the plan for him to take over the number 1 jersey once Schmeichel moves on. I've been talking about we want to have that production line at the club for ages. We want to have a guy there who is, we have the starter, we have the backup at the club developing. And then when the starter leaves, whether they get sold, like if Matt O'Reilly gets sold, there should be someone ready to take his spot. And then we replace him as the replacement steps up to take from him. It's how it should work. So in this situation, it's good to see that we're finally getting that production line at the club. Now, we do have a lot of options here because Schmeichel's starting, but then, as I said, Oluwayemi was supposed to be the protege to Joe Hart. So you've still got him, an England Youth International. You've still got Clark, who's highly rated. And then you've got Sinisalo coming in. You're going to have 3 guys there learning under Schmeichel, ready to step up, and when he retires or moves on, battle it out for that number 1 jersey. I like the look of that.
Honestly, my whole entire opinion changed the second that rumor came out. It all of a sudden felt much better that we had exactly what you're saying, the experience and the personality. Because actually, we've lost a big personality in Joe Hart.
John, I'll jump in here and say I said English Youth International for Oluwayemi. He's an Irish one. I retract my previous statement, and I will give myself a slap later. Okay, done.
Yeah. I have no comment. Yeah, so it's feeling far more positive now that we've got that type of personality, that type of experience coming in, giving ourselves a bit of breathing room. Actually, I talked about treading water before. This actually stops us doing that because we've got a ready-made. Literally, what I was talking about. We know what we're getting. We know the experience. We know the talent, and then we give ourselves 1, maybe 2 years to consider our options. So actually, yeah, it's feeling far more positive now that if it was just a look, let's kick the can down the road. That's when I was getting a bit like, oh, here we bloody go again with Celtic. But it's not actually. It's we need more information. There's too many variables. Let's reassess over the next 2 years and make sure that we actually replace Joe Hart. So I can actually say, well done, Celtic, for once in recruitment.
So I'll bring up some comments here. Michael Ross was Celtic have agreed to sign Sinisalo and Bernardo according to Sky Sports. Hendrik McLaughlin was saying Schmeichel's having the medical. He's going to have his Zimmer frame with him. RL77 was evening, all fell asleep on the couch, had his wild dream, was signed an excellent international class keeper and a rated young keeper as he's understudy to take over in a few years. Wild, hey?
Yeah, I think we all had that dream.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was a fever dream. David Boyle, great to see forward thinking in the goalkeeper position. Let's hope we keep this thinking going. Yeah, exactly. We should be looking at other positions to do the same thing.
Yep.
Paddy Lavery, Jerry Taylor should be their number 1. We all know Rogers loves him. If you don't know, Axom, Jerry and Rogers, they have a bit of a love-in over there. Simon from Derry, Denny, is no finished. He's only 28, is all you can think of with the new keeper.
Yeah.
And Strangelove makes a good point here. If I was to say to you, Celtic should sign the first choice goalkeeper of one of the best international sides in Europe, what would the price be? 8, 10, 15 million? What do you think, John?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. Maybe at 37, it's probably closer to 8. But I think the point remains. I brought up El Yunusi being as expensive as he was, and that probably wasn't something that we could jump at that point. We are in a position now. We have found ourselves in a position where we are getting that type of player for a free, so to speak. You still have to pay wages and all that sort, but at a much discounted price. So sometimes free agents are perfect. They work really, really well. I would be shocked if this signing didn't work out. The only caveat I have to all of this, and I'll mention it, he played for Nice. Hey,
Yeah.
yeah, I think there was a falling out at Nice that he had. I think his personality didn't gel well with the system at Nice. So there's a big falling out there, and the Anderlecht, is it Anderlecht or
Yeah.
Utrecht?
Anderlecht.
Anderlecht, yeah, and the Anderlecht fans rated him their worst signing last year, which is baffling, seeing that his stats were actually supposedly outstanding there, but rated his worst signing. So I don't think it will go bad. I think it's a very, very good signing. I will hold out the caveat that if it goes shit, I've said, well, told you. Anderlecht said. So we'll see. I feel far more positive about it.
I'll hang on to the caveat there, John, that
Yeah.
guess what? We only have him on a 1 year with an
Yeah,
option.
that's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And in the meantime, we've signed Sinisalo, who we can put in there and get games into if need be. So
That's it.
We've got forward planning options, so I'm not too stressed about it, all things considered.
And if he doesn't work out, Sinisalo, then there's still that breathing room to find somebody else that potentially could do what we need him to do. So,
yep,
clever bit of business, I think.
That's it. I'm going to say it. If it doesn't work out, let's just go sign De Gea or Oblak, who are out of contract.
Yeah.
100 million in the bank. How much is it going to take for you? Want all of it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like going all in on a poker table.
Yeah. Let's see how the Champions League run goes, eh?
Well, realistically, this is our last year straight into the Champions League because of the coefficient. So
yes,
we've got to, what I'm saying, I want to be in that top 24 once the group stages is over or the group games are over, because by doing that, it means we should clock up enough coefficient points to hopefully not have as many qualifying games as we would potentially otherwise have at the moment.
Yes, I agree. That's really gonna suck back on the old wheel, eh? So we'll see how it goes.
Is saying Sinisalo for cup games and when the league's wrapped up by Christmas. That's going early.
Well, is that who is it? Arsenal that used to do that a lot. The having a cup keeper and then having a league keeper. I don't think there's.
Most of the English clubs do it. Like Callagher from Liverpool, that's how they played him until Alisson got hurt, and then he had to play a bunch in the league. And then over at Real Madrid, they had that Andre Ludgren or something like that. The completely got his last name wrong. I know that, but I was close. But his Ukrainian goalkeeper, and he was supposed to be there, and what happened? He
Didn't work out.
Injured, and then they got a replacement for him, and he got injured, and they had to play him. And by the end of the season, he was their number one. He's actually going to have a fair challenge now. So it's kind of funny how it all works.
Yep, we could see him as a number one. You never know.
Yep. So there's a couple other rumours kicking around. So this is the last main one I wanted to talk about. Celtic are reported to be looking at signing Michel Ange Balikwisha from Royal Antwerp. So he's a left winger who can play anywhere across the front three. So for me, the talk on this one is some places you're looking and they're talking like 6-7 million. Other places they're talking 9 to 10 million pound for him. So that could potentially be, we're talking earlier on about needing a third striker. The options are, if we bring him in and he's purely a left winger to play there, does Maeda become our third striker?
Yeah.
Because that could be a way of playing around that. But then also having him coming in, if we want to play Maeda on the left, if Kun's not in good form or if there's injuries or whatever, we have a backup, someone who can also play on the right now. So it gives us options all the way across the front three. That's the sort of Brendan signing that makes a lot of sense. If we were to put, you get your goalkeepers on the cheap, one's a free, one's a couple of million, and then you get your goalkeeper, your striker sorted with Ida without having to dig too much into your pockets because you've sold O, and then you manage to go and get a swinger and actually spend some money on it. makes sense, but I don't really know if the club would do that. But Michael Ross was saying exactly the type of player we need. He has Champions League experience, scoring 2 goals in it as well, so that's going to be helpful. What are your thoughts, Johnny?
I 100% agree with the sentiment. That's exactly what we need in that type of player. We need experienced Europa League. We need experienced Champions League players that will just come in and do as we know the level that we know the level that they're at. So they will just move on from there. That's exactly what we need. Whether left wing is a position that I would have said we'll go out and we'll buy a left winger. I wouldn't have put money on it. I think our right wing's far weaker. But in saying that, could we see a player who can play anywhere in the front three, but normally a left winger, play on the right in the exact way that Rodgers likes his wingers to cut in? Potentially, but that we really could see that. We could see Maeda, Kyogo, and this player all playing together. That could absolutely happen. So I like that type of caliber. I'm happy that we're actually paying the type of money that we need to be paying. We've had this conversation before. 5 million does not get you what 5 million got you in 2017. To get that level of player, you need to be spending 9 million or 7 plus. But that's where the market is now. So I can't even remember what Nacham was, but if we can think back to Nacham, to get a Nacham type player, you need to be spending 7+ million. So it's good that we're actually heavily rumored with that type of transfer fee. Not that is a surety of anything, but it is encouraging at least when none of us are actually inside the boardroom making the decisions. It's encouraging from the outside to see that's the type of market we're actually looking at, getting serious first team players. So I was quite encouraged by the rumor of that.
So Mahesh is saying Mab from Antwerp has I love that. The average metrics, above average metrics, probably more potential than Jota, should sign at the right price. Get it done. And then Pegleg was saying anything above 5 million, Peter Loyal will have a stroke.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to say this, Peter Lawwell, it's not your money, it's our money. We put it into the club. Spend the friggin' money and get us the players we need.
As a major shareholder, it is kind of his money.
What's that?
As a major shareholder, it is kind of his money as well.
I just want to quickly say that Gareth Southgate is no longer the England manager, so get it right up here. Just had my phone blowing up with that while we were talking there.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting.
So back to the Celtic stuff. So if all they so if all the signings we've spoken about here, Johnny, are completed this week, to you, what is left to do to complete the signings this summer, this window? For me, I'll give you my quick little thoughts on it.
Yeah, go on.
So we need a starting quality left back for Europe,
Yeah,
a left-sided centre back, and then I got someone who can play across the front three if the Balikwisha move doesn't happen. Then anything after that will depend on replacing Sales. So if O'Reilly, Hatade move on, then we'll have to bring someone in there. Other than that, I'm good to go with what we've got. What are your thoughts?
I'm almost exactly the same. I would say, in addition to that, I think we need another X factor type player in the midfield. Something like a box to box, maybe midfielder that just gives us something a bit special. Who on earth that is, I have no idea. But
can I jump on that for a second, John, while you're saying it? Because it's just put an idea. If we're going to go in the midfield, I'd actually want a good quality, big, tall number 6. So Kelmack doesn't have to play that role in Europe, but he can be that box to box you're talking about.
Yeah. Or equally that, I think that would also work really well. What we have at the moment in the midfield is a really high level of decent midfielders, and then such a colossal drop off to the next level. Like, it's so different between who we have coming on the pitch than who we have coming off, and I would rather that not happening. So I think just maybe like a fourth If we play three in the middle, just another fourth where we can rotate. Hatate O'Reilly, let's assume everyone's staying. Hatate O'Reilly and McGregor are not staying fit for the entire season. So we need another one coming in straight away that'll play 20, 25 games, easy, and then just give us that little bit, something different, something a bit extra, something like that. But I also agree with you. Left back, major needs to be fixed. Greg Taylor gets targeted in games. Targeted. The amount of games that we let goals in, and everyone's saying that's a goal even before the ball was crossed in. It's they just target Greg Taylor. So massive love for him. I think he's a good backup. He on his day, he's a phenomenal player. Not the level we need him at. We also need to shore up the centre back situation. We need a left-sided centre back. We need to pair them a really, really decent pairing with Cameron Carter-Vickers. And then, going forward, we need somebody who can play in the front three or another winger or something like that. Maybe it's going to get a point where we start talking about Kyogo as well. And if his performances don't really pick up, then we're going to be talking about strikers because he had a very lackluster end of the season. All last season. The season before that, he was phenomenal, and then he kind of dropped off. So, potentially someone who can fill in. If that's Maeda, brilliant. He's played there for Japan, so he can do a job there. Very good job, or somebody else, whoever coming in. So yeah, I kind of agree with you with those positions.
So I'll bring through some comments here. So Maestro95 saying McGregor reads the game well from the back, links up play between defence and the forward areas. Pegleg saying McGregor is getting slower by the season, more injury prone too. And then Henrik McLaughlin was saying, yeah, so far no succession planning for Calmac. Who knew players get older, slow down, get more injury prone. So realistically, off all of that, that's that production line I've been talking about for the best part of 2 years on this podcast, maybe longer, that we need to be looking at doing. So hopefully we can find someone to be in that spot long term. So that's why I was kind of saying if we're going to bring in someone in the middle of the park, bring in a number 6 to play that role. So you got that person in a wider to cover that position. And then Calmac is freed up of the burden defensively, and he can just be that link-up man that he plays that role for Scotland, and he looks better in that role than he does what he did for us last season. So Henrik McLaughlin also said, slightly concerned there's not been any news about a left-back signing, not even a rumour.
Yeah, me too. It's quite an obvious need.
RL77 was we're needing left-back, a centre-back, and better on the wings. Maestro95 is left-back and centre-half. Henrik McLaughlin was left-back, centre-back, left wing. Strangelove the Doctor was left-back, left centre-back, central midfielder, and a right winger. Maestro is also saying we need physicality. If you ask Brendan what we need quality.
Yeah. I fucking hate when he goes on about that. Every team needs quality. Yeah.
I was fishing there, Johnny, trying to wind up. Hook, line, and sinker right there.
Yeah.
Maisha's point is the number one problem for Celtic in Champions League is transition speed and defence. So some fast fullbacks and centre backs. Lesson from last season is this. So make a good point. So yeah, there we go. Pegleg saying agree we need pacier wing backs. Michael Ross is saying Daniel Kelly could have been Calmac's long-term successor. Sign the bloody contract, Kelly, then. And we'll make it happen. Like, if we play 4 games in 2 weeks, Kelly should be playing one of them. In the same way I used to say McGregor should be the main guy and Bruni towards the end of his last couple of years should have been scaling it back. Then it's start to be the same.
I don't know if we're quite there where we need the transition yet between Calmac. Like, I can see what everybody's saying. Like, I'm not blind, but I'm not sure we're quite in the twilight years of Calmac just yet.
No, but we do need to get someone in as an understudy there.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And Calmac was an understudy for Brown like 3 seasons before. Before it was like, okay, this is Brown's last season. So I get the idea, but yeah. I think having an idea about it is a good plan, but I don't think we're quite there where we're like, okay, Calmac's got 2 more seasons and then he's off.
Yep. So the last thing I wanted to say for everyone who hasn't paid any attention over here, Harry Kuehl left Celtic 7 months ago to take on the Yokohama F. Marinos job in Japan. Yeah, he got the sack today. So that's a bit of first Aussie to fail at that club out of the last 4. So yeah, it's interesting times for Harry. I don't think he'll get another gig as a head coach in a while. So yeah,
it's a shame.
Now, Andrew, you're watching the Jockstein doco. That's okay, sir. All good with me. I'll let you off. If you hadn't said you were watching something like Gogglebox or some crap like that, then I'd have been like, get your priorities right, buddy. I met one of the people on Australian Gogglebox the other day through work. Strange human.
Yeah, you'd have to be.
There you go. Pegleg saying, bring Kuehl back. Our wingers were playing better when he was here. Yeah, I know.
Might happen.
So I think that's pretty much everything. I'm just going to do the usual shout out. So there's an upcoming Australia-New Zealand tour for Gary Ogg. Tickets available via the Troubadour Presents website, which is in the show notes. There's a link there. We will, we'll be having Gary on and doing some ticket giveaways later on in the year. So just wanted to let everyone know on that front there. Johnny, you got a final thought?
Well, my final thought was going to be how excited I am to watch Tenacious D on Thursday. However, the likelihood of that currently happening is extremely small now that they're likely to get deported after stupid comments made in Newcastle. So, yeah, well, maybe I'll jump on next pod and let you know if it even happened or not. But I was very, very excited for months. But stupid comment ruining my Thursday. That's my comment.
Bloody hell. Get on here. Give him a tribute if the show goes ahead. I'm going to bring up a comment from P. McLaughlin because this is what I was going to use for my final thought. The club's going to announce a triple signing, thinking either tonight or tomorrow morning. I hope they do something like get the disco lights, get them in at Celtic Park at midnight, record some like Undertaker-esque wrestling video, gong, the lights go dark, and then suddenly these green lights just glow, and there's like all these players holding up their shirts being announced. Something absolutely legendary like that. It needs to happen.
That sounds very showman-esque. That's yeah.
They've got to get better with the social media game and the content game. So that's what that's all about. If fan media can do a better job than some of the club's social media stuff, then, you know, they need to lift their game. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll probably have a snap podcast at some point later in the week once we got some signings announced. So keep an eye on our YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell if you haven't already done so that whenever we go live, you get a notification. And like, comment on the video. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Ho, ho.
Ho, ho.